The antique clock in the hallway chimed, its melancholic echoes slicing through the otherwise silent house. Raymond, a man sculpted by routine and defined by a quiet predictability, barely registered it. He was engrossed in the architectural plans spread across the dining room table, the intricate details of the new library wing he was designing for the local university consuming his focus. His wife, Lenore, was a vibrant contrast to Raymond's muted existence. A whirlwind of energy and passion, she ran a successful floral design business, her days filled with color and the intoxicating scent of blossoms. She'd always been the life of the party, the sun around which Raymond, a quiet satellite, happily orbited. Tonight, though, Lenore was late. Again. A knot of unease tightened in Raymond's stomach. Her absences had become increasingly frequent, the excuses increasingly flimsy: a last-minute wedding consultation, a delayed flower delivery, a sudden need to restock supplies. He wanted to believe her, desperately yearned for the unwavering trust that had always been the bedrock of their marriage. But a seed of doubt had been planted, nurtured by the whispers he tried so hard to ignore. He glanced at the clock. 9:47 p.m. He picked up his phone, hesitated, then scrolled through his contacts. He stopped at Lenore's name, his thumb hovering over the call button. He closed his eyes, picturing her radiant smile, the way her eyes crinkled at the corners when she laughed. He couldn't. He just couldn't bring himself to confront the possibility that she was lying. Instead, he poured himself a glass of wine and returned to his plans, forcing himself to concentrate on the blueprints, the precise measurements, the elegant curves of the proposed archway. He needed the distraction, the solace of order and structure in a world that suddenly felt tilted on its axis. Around midnight he heard the click of the front door. Relief washed over him, so potent it almost knocked him off his feet. He rushed to the hallway, ready to greet Lenore with a hug and bury his anxieties in her embrace. But the words died in his throat. Lenore stood in the doorway, her face flushed, her hair slightly disheveled. She looked beautiful, undeniably so, but there was a brittleness in her eyes he hadn't seen before, a guardedness that chilled him to the bone. "Raymond," she said, her voice tight. I need to tell you something." The air in the hallway thickened, heavy with unspoken words, with the weight of impending confession. He braced himself, the fragile edifice of his trust already beginning to crumble. "I've been seeing someone," she confessed, the words tumbling out like stones. "His name is Mark. He works with me. He helps me with deliveries." Raymond felt a sharp, stinging pain in his chest, a physical manifestation of the betrayal that ripped through him. He wanted to shout, to scream, to demand answers. But he remained silent, his gaze fixed on Lenore, trying to decipher the emotions flickering across her face: guilt, regret, perhaps even a hint of defiance. "How long?" he finally managed to croak, his voice barely a whisper. 6 months, she admitted, her eyes dropping to the floor. I know I should have told you sooner. But I was afraid." Afraid? Of him? The man who had loved her unconditionally, who had built his life around her happiness. The irony was almost unbearable. "Afraid of what, Lenore?" he asked, the pain hardening into a cold, simmering anger. "Afraid of hurting me? Because congratulations, you've succeeded." The argument that followed was a blur of accusations, denials, and recriminations. Lenore insisted that she still loved him, that the affair was a mistake, a moment of weakness. Raymond couldn't comprehend it. The woman he thought he knew, the woman he had vowed to spend his life with, had shattered his reality with a casual cruelty he couldn't reconcile. As the night wore on, the argument devolved into a cold, simmering silence. Lenore retreated to the guest room, leaving Raymond alone in the wreckage of their marriage. He spent the rest of the night pacing, replaying their life together, searching for clues he had missed, for warning signs he had ignored. The next morning, an uneasy truce settled upon the house. They moved around each other like ghosts, avoiding eye contact, speaking in hushed tones. Lenore promised to end the affair, to work on their marriage. Raymond, still reeling from the shock, agreed to try. But the trust was gone, replaced by a gnawing suspicion that poisoned every interaction. Weeks turned into months, and the tension in the house remained palpable. Lenore seemed to be trying, but Raymond couldn't shake the feeling that she was holding something back. He started to obsess, checking her phone, scrutinizing her every move. He was becoming a person he didn't recognize, consumed by paranoia and resentment. One evening, while Lenore was at work, Raymond decided to confront Mark. He found his address through a mutual acquaintance and drove to his apartment, his hands clenched tight on the steering wheel. Mark was a handsome, athletic man, everything Raymond wasn't. He was surprised to see Raymond at his door, but he didn't seem afraid, only wary. The conversation started calmly enough, with Raymond demanding that Mark stay away from Lenore. But as the tension escalated, anger flared, and the words turned into accusations and threats. "She doesn't love you," Mark sneered, his eyes filled with contempt. "She's just with you because you're safe. She needs someone who can excite her, someone who makes her feel alive." Raymond snapped. He lunged at Mark, throwing a punch that connected with his jaw. Mark retaliated, and the two men grappled, their struggles spilling out into the hallway. During the fight, Mark managed to grab a letter opener from a nearby table. In a moment of blind rage, he lunged at Raymond, aiming for his chest. Raymond instinctively raised his arm to defend himself, and the letter opener pierced his flesh, slicing deep into his forearm. He cried out in pain, stumbling backward. Mark, realizing what he had done, froze, his eyes wide with horror. He stammered an apology, but Raymond didn't hear him. All he could feel was the searing pain and the realization that his life was in danger. He managed to stumble back to his car and drive away, his arm bleeding profusely. He knew he needed to get to a hospital, but his mind was racing. He couldn't believe what had just happened. He had come to confront Mark, and now he was bleeding out in his car, a victim of his wife's betrayal. Meanwhile, Lenore, unaware of the drama unfolding, was at home, feeling a growing sense of unease. She had been trying to end the affair with Mark, but he was becoming increasingly possessive and volatile. She had a growing fear that her actions had set something terrible into motion. As Raymond drifted in and out of consciousness while driving, he finally called Lenore using this last bit of strength and said, "Bibi, I am dying," and the phone went dead. After hearing the words, Lenore's world shattered. She frantically called Raymond back, but there was no answer. Her heart pounded in her chest as she pieced together the events of the evening. She knew that Raymond had gone to see Mark. She knew that things could have escalated. She raced to Mark's apartment, her mind filled with dread. When she arrived, she found the door ajar and the apartment empty. A trail of blood led from the living room to the hallway. Lenore's blood ran cold. She knew that Raymond was in danger, and she knew that she was responsible. Her betrayal had set off a chain of events that had led to this moment, a moment where her husband's life hung in the balance. She called the police and reported the incident, her voice trembling with fear and guilt. As she waited for the authorities to arrive, she couldn't help but wonder if it was too late. Had her affair cost Raymond his life? Raymond was found several hours later, unconscious in his car on the side of the road. He was rushed to the hospital, where doctors managed to stabilize him. He had lost a lot of blood, and the wound was serious, but he would survive. Lenore stayed by his side throughout his recovery, her heart filled with remorse. She knew that she had almost lost him, and she vowed to do everything in her power to earn back his trust. The affair was over, and Mark was arrested and charged with aggravated assault. But the scars of the betrayal remained, etched deep into the fabric of their marriage. Raymond and Lenore had a long and difficult road ahead of them. The trust that had once been the foundation of their relationship was shattered, and it would take years to rebuild it. But they were both determined to try. They had learned a painful lesson about the consequences of infidelity, and they were committed to making their marriage work. They had almost lost everything, and they knew that they had to fight to keep what remained. The betrayal became a near life-threatening situation for Raymond, a stark reminder of the fragility of love and the devastating consequences of infidelity. The moral of the story is that infidelity not only shatters trust but can also have devastating, unintended consequences. Lies and betrayal create a ripple effect, leading to pain, paranoia, and even danger. Lenore's affair was not just a moment of weakness, it set off a chain of events that nearly cost Raymond his life. The story highlights the fragility of love, the price of dishonesty, and the painful, uphill battle of rebuilding trust after betrayal. It serves as a reminder that actions have consequences, and once trust is broken, repairing it can take a lifetime.